My name is Riddle. Today is April 20th, 2024, and it's Indie Meme 2024, and I am here with
Nathalia Syam, film director and the director of feature film Footprints on Water that's participating in Indie Meme 24.
Thank you so much for joining us. What inspired you to become a filmmaker in the independent South Asian cinema industry?
I think for me, Footprints being my debut feature, I think for me I was really driven by the whole concept and the whole idea of showing to not just the rest of the world but just somebody else that this is a scene that commonly happens, and whatever we think is happening abroad is not really what's as it seems. And so I felt like, because having lived through some personal experience in a similar setting, I was very driven by showing it out, and I felt film as a medium is one of the most powerful mediums to portray a message or to portray a situation or a scenario that you otherwise wouldn't understand unless you lived through that.
And what challenges have you faced as an independent South Asian filmmaker?
I think the challenges are quite endless, but I think off the top of my head, first, because I moved to the UK when I was 10, and though we had some family members working in the film industry in Kerala and South India, it's funny because while I was in Kerala, I never had this wish or dream of getting into the film industry, and I think it's only until we saw a story worth telling that really propelled us to be there. And I think to start with, the challenges was initially from home, that because it's not really a traditional route of career. I think my parents initially wanted me to just do something a bit more stable, like get into accounts, which I did for a year, and then I quit that. Is when I decided I don't want to do accounts anymore. And at 20, I started going to film school. Every uni friend of mine or a course mate of mine came from a background of having done media in high school or film in college, but I came from just doing mostly maths and sciences because I was going into accounts. So I think to kind of transition into proving to people that I can get into film as well, I thought that was quite challenging. And also because I studied in London, I knew a lot more Indian films than the British films or American films, so it was really difficult to talk about soaps like EastEnders and Hollyoaks. I've never watched that, but you were kind of considered an outsider if you didn't know that. And then you get into the industry, and then there's this whole lack of guidance on how to be a director. Out of the 100 people I've asked advice for, probably 95 of them have said, don't get into direction, get into becoming a crew. For me, I just had to start at the bottom as a runner, being a runner for 4 or 5 years, and on-set driver, on-set cleaner, long as I stayed close to a set. In a hindsight, it's such a challenge because when you're doing that for 4 or 5 years and you have no idea what next, and you kind of often feel very monotonous. And on top of all this, it's not that it's a full-time job, so you're constantly having to run around and find one job after the other. And 1 month is good, and then the next month you're feeling really low at home, and then a lot of mental health issues start kicking in as well. So I think all that combined is a challenge. And I think having now made my first film, you'd think the second film is easier. It's not really. It's the same challenge for every film. And I've met and talked to filmmakers who have 50 years of experience, 60 years experience. It's not that, they want to make a film and the world is just there with monies to make it. So I think it shouldn't be this much of a struggle to put across a story or to put across a film. But I guess there are so many things now in place that helps you, but I don't think it's never enough or never as easy as I can wake up and feel so confident that I'm a filmmaker and I'll be paid anytime in the future. So I guess this is a hindsight of challenges, but there's millions, and I don't think we've got the time today to go through it all.
Thank you so much. What themes or messages do you try to convey through your films?
I think the themes and messages I try to convey through my films depends on the concept of the film. Like, for example, Footprints looks into immigration and the lives of undocumented migrants. Bottom line, the film is about a father searching for his daughter, and it's a missing person story, like what's happening. So we wanted to kind of allow the audiences to connect in a more kind of global level, with the feeling that even if you have not experienced it, you can still watch it, but with the context that this is what happens. We've been quite careful in not kind of showing them in any sympathy or in a light of empathy. We just show what it is without glamorizing the dark side of UK. So I think in terms of message, to kind of show things as it is, and depending on the concept, like now we're working on this film which is a relationship between a mother and her autistic teenage son who's going through puberty, and the message on that is totally different. So it's important to kind of understand what these characters are going through and get into their mind, get into their spirit, and convey the messages that they would be facing or enjoying. So I think that's probably what I'd like to do for all my films.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And what, in your opinion, distinguishes independent South Asian cinema from mainstream Bollywood or Hollywood productions?
I feel when it's a big commercial Bollywood film or a commercial Hollywood film, there's a lot of money at stake. So they usually either stick to some formulas or they stick to things that they know will earn back some money for sure. A lot of independent cinema, especially having, I come from south of India in Kerala, Malayalam film industry is an example of independent film scene that makes up to 100x on their films, independent films that doesn't follow any formula, because in South there's a lot of content driven audience compared to some of the other films that they expect a certain star. So I think the main distinguishing element is that I think independent cinema doesn't really crave for a star the way mainstream cinema does. And independent cinema is usually made on a much lower budget than a big commercial film does. And usually independent cinema has kind of topics that takes a little bit more guts to convey than because in commercial mainstream you don't want to get into too much of a niche topic, so then it could disengage with stories for the masses. You don't ever see Avengers showing a very niche topic that somebody goes through in mental health, for example. There may be a side of it or maybe a hint of it, but it's never the whole movie about it, because they need to make sure the world is connecting to it. So I think that's probably the main difference, and that's why it's so important to have both the commercial mainstream as well as independent. Because if I want to watch a film and just switch off and not think of anything, I think I should watch a commercial film. But if you really want to enjoy a film and take something back from it, then you can pick an independent film.
Thank you so much. How do you approach storytelling in your own films?
I think for me, storytelling has a lot to do with what people can relate to. I think it's to not assume that not to assume that the audience are gonna feel a certain way towards a certain scene. I'm a huge fan of grey characters who are quite wrong and right at the same time. And sometimes when you do that, because most of us are grey, we've got a lot of things that's good about us and that's bad about us, and it just depends on the people or situations that we're in. So I think my approach to storytelling is by showing the truth that all humans are flawed, and in that way you allow the audience an opportunity to either be against them or with them. And I think when you closely knit together various scenes that combines this idea of a flawed human being and then a story runs through that, it's easy for people to relate and connect to. I'm sure you've watched films where it's a perfect son, and then you're just getting a bit sick by the end. You're like, oh, he's not. There's something really dodgy about him, But then you see somebody who makes mistakes, and then you feel like, yeah, because that's me every other day, So I think that's my approach to storytelling, by, I'd say, not glamorizing things, not underplaying things as well. Just hit the right balance and kind of show things as they are without expecting the audience to feel a certain way, if that makes sense.
What role do you think film festivals play in promoting independent and South Asian independent cinema?
So this question is very interesting, because I've gone to film festivals with my shorts. Though one of my short films from 2017 called Lehenga, it was in the Iris Prize, which is a BAFTA qualifying festival. And over there, I think we got a little bit more importance because we were nominated and some red carpet and everything was there. But at the end of the day, it's a very short film. Entering the film festival circuit with a feature film was a complete new learning curve for me, because Footprints is, say, an hour and 50 minutes. And you've allowed the audience to see the concept and get into the characters for an hour and 50 minutes. So the reactions are always so different. And I feel allowing that opportunity allows a filmmaker an opportunity to explain where they're coming from and explain what they intended. And I think that was an unparalleled experience that I've ever experienced in my life. And I try and visit as many festivals as I can, especially if there's, if they invite me to do so, because I think there's nothing more precious than having a theater full of people and seeing their reactions. I always sit through all the films. I think I've seen the film 1,000 times. I don't ever get bored of it, because more than watching the film, I'm watching the audience. And I think that kind of an opportunity is something the film festival allows a filmmaker to kind of grow. And also there's, of course, without saying, there's networking opportunities, and there is opportunities to promote your film. There's opportunities to make friends and find like-minded people. But I think for me the most important one is this great feeling knowing that maybe a decade ago, because we worked around a decade to make this film happen, something that was just in our head and just constantly obsessing over when is it ever gonna happen, and to kind of have that screen and see people from different parts of the world react to it, I think that's a priceless experience.
What advice would you give to aspiring independent South Asian filmmakers?
I think my advice would be for people to kind of imagine that, always feel like you're kind of nothing, and you're unimportant, because the minute one festival can happen and then people can compliment you, and if you let it get to your head, you might put yourself through so much in the future thinking, okay, I'm not doing nothing, or I'm not doing much. And rather than thinking what you're doing on a daily basis or on a yearly basis, I think look at what you've done till now. Say if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you've attended a film festival and gone and watched other people's work, that's such a huge win, because there's a lot of people sitting at home wanting to be filmmakers who's not done that, so I think to kind of take it easier on yourself and set realistic expectations, because I used to have all these vision boards where I'd say by 2015 I'll have my first feature, and then I'd see that in 2017 I'd feel like a loser. And I think I shouldn't have set situations like that, because it took me until 2023 to complete my first feature. So I think I feel like just kind of trusting the process and understanding there's a time for everything, and in the meantime just keep busy, and if you've got nothing to do, just watch a film.
Thank you so much. And what do you see as the future of independent South Asian cinema, and what do you hope to contribute to it?
There's a lot more independent cinema now being made, because in the digital era there are people making films on their phones, on their iPads, on cheaper camera equipment that otherwise would have been quite more expensive. So I think definitely there's going to be an increase in the number of independent cinema. But I think it is also dangerous, because if you look at facts, majority of films that's independently made don't get released or don't even get shown. Like, we're at least quite lucky that there are film festivals and platforms like this that shows their work. At least it's a win for somebody. But there's a lot of films that gets made and it never comes out. So I think the market could get a little crowded. So I think if there is an ecosystem where independent cinema is appreciated just as much as the commercial cinema, then I think that would be a great balance. But I don't know if that would happen, and I don't know what I can contribute to it other than maybe try and continue making films. But I'm sure as we speak there's more and more films being shot and being wrapped, and more and more concepts are coming, and I think I'd love to contribute to it by being a tiny part of it, hopefully. And I hope to make more films in the future and continue making, and even if it's one other person who watches it, I think that would be a win. And if everybody thought that way, then I think we'd have a good ecosystem of various stories that if somebody wants to watch it, they can.